battle the first war, the horns still rise. Born in the forges of Zeniba's flame, they march again under Gylo's name. Black hide shining in the ash of war, the blaze of fire shakes the planet's core. From the red horse blows, the monster grew, a dark sword, deadlier, stronger, new. Across the coast to lust, break the portal's line, and burn the salamanders with the sky divine. Monster machines, Darkhorn of the black sun, break the dawn. Rolling steel until hope is gone. Lasers sing and engines roar. Darkhorns on forevermore. The stalemate shatters when the shadows come. The empire rides with the black sun drum. Darkhorns of the black sun break the dawn. Rolling steel until hope is gone. Lasers sing and engines roar. Darkhorns on forevermore. The stalemate shatters when the shadows come. The empire rides with the black sun drum. Healthy gunners come to bring the heat. Dead daughters crush with the gravity beat. Guild Vaders rise like dragons of hell, while Darkhorns make the Gylos army swell. Our cannons cut the lines to shreds. Our charge leaves only oil and the dead. Every war has its kings to fear, and the Darkhorns' reign is near. Monster machines, laser and horn, thunder and hate. There is no escape. We are the first and last sound you will hear. Darkhorns of the black sun fade the seal. Fire and metal will rule the field. From the first war's blood we came to turn the world to fire evermore. No mercy, no truce, no place to run. We ride forever neath the black sun drum. Homes of the black sun fade to steel. Fire and metal will rule the field. From the first war's blood we came to turn the world to fire ever flame. No mercy, no truce, no place to run. We ride forever neath the black sun drum. Darkhorns advancing. Monster machines. Darkhorns advancing. Monster machines. Central continent plains where steel beasts charge and leave blood stains. The Herrick Republic holds the line, a shining cause by fate designed. From the shadows of the dark continent, the Gylos rise, malevolent intent with saber teeth and iron fists. The black machines scream through the mists. Mogus crawl and iguans bite, but guttos roar and join the fight. From ancient wrecks their war begins, now only steel and fire wins. Monster machines! It's the war for planet Z, where the brave will live and tyrants die. Zoid to Zoids, sky and land, republic Republic steel makes it stand. Shielders clash, simmer tigers scream. Salamanders scorch the dream. Godulus rises through smoke and flame, and iron cones fall to shame. It's the war for planet Z, where the brave will live and tyrants die. Zoids to Zoids, Skyland. Republic steel makes it stand. Shielders clash, simmer tigers scream. Salamanders scorch the dream. Godulus rises through smoke and flame, and iron cones fall to shame. Moga swarm like worms of war, but laser jaws even every score. Red horns stomp with ruthless pride, but Godulus meets them eye to eye. Through jungles thick and burning skies, the shielders run where valor flies. Against the saber tiger lies, the claws strike true, Republic never dies. Monster machines, the Nibus bones, they fuel the dark, but freedom burns with a righteous spark. Old empires rise, but never last. Helix stands, the die is cast. Monster machines, it's the war for planet Z. Let the tyrants hear our battle cry. From godlike beasts to raptor speed, we fight for honor, not for greed. Sky turns red, steel gods fall, but the Helic heart outlasts them all. Raise your fist and scream with pride. The Zoids of freedom will not hide. A war for planet Z. Let the tyrants hear our battle cry. Lion chains and Redhorn Rex rust in the rains. Shieldlingers walk the fields they won, and Z turns slowly toward the sun. This is our world, this is our fight. Zoids of Helic burn through the night. For planet Z we rise, we fall, but freedom stands above them all.
Metallic giants rise from lying grounds. Blue guardians scour the heart. Lights and fury in the sky.